All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and you gotta love it. Gervonta Tank Davis puts Shakur Stevenson on notice. I might just move down there to 130 pounds and snatch my belts back. That is what's up. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. We are in the 130-pound division for this video. Gervonta Tank Davis and Shakur Stevenson might be headed towards a showdown. Exchange words on Twitter. Gervonta put it in the atmosphere. Let's make it happen. But before I get into that, though, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are a longtime subscriber, supporter of the channel, thank you so much for continuing to support the channel. If you are new to the channel, accept my invitation to subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Okay, so 130-pound division just last week, or is that the weekend before last? April 16th. I do believe it was April 16th. We had a I can't remember the date. I'm terrible with the dates. We just had Shakur Stevenson beat. Actually, I think that was April 30th. Now that I mention it, it was the last week. Shakur Stevenson beat Oscar Valdez to unify belts at the WBO 130-pound championship, and the WBO and the WBC 130-pound championships by beating Oscar Valdez. Did so in a unanimous decision, lopsided unanimous decision, and in my opinion proved that he is one of the best fighters in the world, despite the fact that certain publications did not give that man the credit that I think they would have given Oscar Valdez had Oscar Valdez beaten Shakur Stevenson. But whatever the case is, Shakur Stevenson, in the eyes of many, has proven that he is one of the best fighters in boxing. And he said that what he wants to do is to become an undisputed champion at 130 pounds. Bob Arum had responded to that by saying, nah, we need to do something else because nobody cares about this Gutierrez guy or this other guy. What is his name? Man, I always forget his name. I believe he's a Japanese champion for the IBF. Nobody cares about those other champions at 140 pounds, at 130 pounds. Nobody's going to buy that. Nobody's going to fight that. Nobody's going to buy that fight. We don't need to do that. Well, in comes the saving grace, the biggest draw below 147 pounds in boxing, Mr. Gervonta Tank Davis, who tweeted out, maybe I will come down to 130 pounds and fight at 130 pounds. Now, if that took place, I'm telling you, man, would be one of the best fights that you could make in the sport of boxing. Several great fights that can be made in the sport of boxing, but man, that has got to be considered one of them because you have two guys who are at that weight class. Gervonta Davis is, in my opinion, a 130-pound fighter. He has won championships at that. He won the IBF. Did he win the IBF? Yeah, he won the IBF originally. Then he won the WBA Super Championship. Then he moved up and won the WBA regular championship, moved up to 140 and got another WBA regular championship. But then he moved back down to 130, knocked out Leo Santa Cruz for the 130-pound championship there. So clearly, this is a weight class that he can make. He's not a particularly big 135-pounder, would fit perfectly in the 130-pound division, and a Shakur Stevenson fight would be gigantic for boxing. Now, some people say, well, you know, it's not that big a fight. It's not as big as a fight is, I don't know what fights, but obviously not as big as a fight with like Terrence Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. But man, I'm telling you, this is a mini version of that fight. And actually, I have to look back to maybe Roy Jones Jr. versus Bernard Hopkins for two fighters of that caliber to fight each other that early in their career. I think Bernard Hopkins didn't have a lot of fights, wasn't even a champion yet, but was one of the hottest young fighters and clearly a future champion at the 160-pound division. Roy Jones Jr. recently won the title at 160. To have him fight Bernard Hopkins, I don't know how many people thought about that at the time or knew about it at the time, but it was a major, major, major thing. Looking back on it now, that is what we know would be the case with Gervonta Davis and Shakur Stevenson. Now, do I think that the fight is going to actually happen? I think that's a tough fight to make because of Bob Arum. And the reason why I say that is because, Bob Arum is somebody in Top Rank, do not necessarily, from what I can see, think about individual fights as much as they seem to think about weight classes. Right now, and the fact that they want to have in-house fights, because in-house fights allow you to control weight classes. When you have, for example, take what transpired to the point where Shakur Stevenson is a unified champion. He was a champion at 126 pounds, the WBO champion. He moves up and fights Jamel Herring, who is another top-ranked fighter, and then to get the WBO 130-pound championship. And then he moves and fights Oscar Valdez, who is another top-ranked fighter, to get that belt. If he moves to 135 pounds, it may be the case that all of the belts are being held by somebody that is fighting on a top-ranked card, because now George Kambosos has a co-promotional deal with Top Rank along with Lou DiBella. Not sure the extent to how long that deal goes. Same thing with the guy that George Kambosos is fighting. Devin Haney has a co-promotional deal with Top Rank and Top Rank to fight on ESPN, right? So no matter who wins those fights, Bob Arum keeps the belts, and Bob Arum is in a position to make the next fight. If Gervonta Tank Davis goes down there and fights Shakur Stevenson, is Gervonta Davis going to sign with Top Rank in order to get that fight? Where if Gervonta Davis wins that title, then Gervonta Davis is going to, will be able to fight on a Top Rank card next if he beats Shakur Stevenson, which I will tell you is more likely than not that Gervonta Davis would win that fight from what I can see. I think that I'm not going to say it's some blowout type of fight. I don't think that, but I do believe that Gervonta Davis's skill sets play very, very well with Shakur Stevenson. And the way that Shakur Stevenson went about fighting his last several fights, one against Jamel Herring and the other against Oscar Valdez, is going to be very, very difficult to pull off with Shakur Stevenson, because Shakur Stevenson, first of all, his offense to defense is bananas. His boxing skills, and it being a southpaw and southpaw matchup, takes away the southpaw advantage for Shakur Stevenson. I think that Gervonta has advantages in hand speed and power, and is most definitely going to touch up Shakur Stevenson with some major shots to the body. And if he touches him on that chin, it could be night. It's just, it just would be real hard, man. Real hard on Shakur. However, not saying Shakur Stevenson can't win it. I don't doubt that he has the ability to do. If anybody in that weight class could, it could happen. And I think it's a classic fight. It's a can't miss fight. You got a boxer, a guy that will box and will slug with you in Shakur, against a guy that will box and will slug and got knockout power in Gervonta Davis. Man, it's almost a can't miss fight. But anyway, it is what it is. That's what my take is on the matter. I certainly hope they make that fight. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.